From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I am Aishah Ashraf. Juliette Binoche opened Cannes 2025 with a tribute to Palestinian journalist Fatima Hassouna, killed in an Israeli strike days after her film was selected for the festival. This and more in today's show. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib has introduced a resolution to recognize the Palestinian Nakba. The term refers to the mass expulsion of Palestinians from their homeland during the creation of Israel in 1948. She said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has threatened to ethnically cleanse the entire Palestinian population in Gaza and permanently occupy it. Tlaib said this immense trauma, including the loss of their loved ones and connections to the communities they grew up in, needs to be repaired. Palestinians across the occupied West Bank held protests on Wednesday, marking 77 years since the Nakba, the mass displacement of their people in 1948. The largest rally was in Ramallah's Al-Manara Square, where crowds called for the right of the return and an end to Israeli attacks on Gaza. Marches were also held in refugee camps and towns. A siren rang for 77 seconds at 12:30 p.m. in memory of those displaced. Officials laid flowers at Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat's tomb, and Nakba Day is observed every May 15th. The West Bank and East Jerusalem have remained under Israeli occupation since 1967. A Wednesday press conference in Washington spotlighted Gaza's deepening humanitarian crisis. Speakers demanded an immediate ceasefire, aid delivery, and civilian protection. They urged the U.S. to play a stronger role in peace efforts. Among the speakers were Redemptorist priest Francis Garyani, Ben & Jerry's co-founder Bennett Cohen, and veteran Mike Ferner. Doctors and peace activists, including Anel Shalin and Dr. Razan An-Nahas, also voiced alarm. They called for urgent global action to end suffering in Gaza and ensure lasting peace in the region. Israel has killed at least 115 Palestinians, mostly women and children, and injured 152 in fresh Israeli airstrikes across Gaza. The attacks came as Palestinians marked 77 years since the Nakba, their mass expulsion during Israel's founding in 1948. Overnight, Israel killed 61 people in Khan Yunis. Jabalia and Gaza City were also hit hard. Entire families were wiped out and hospitals bombed. The European hospital in Khan Yunis, Gaza's last cancer treatment center, was forced to shut down. Journalist Ahmed Al-Halou was killed, bringing the death toll of media workers since October 2023 to 217. Civil defense teams say they're overwhelmed, with many victims still trapped under rubble. The World Health Organization condemned a deadly strike on the European hospital during a planned evacuation. Since October 2023, more than 62,000 Palestinians have been killed and nearly 120,000 injured. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Israeli leaders, and Israel faces charges of genocide at the International Court of Justice. French actress Juliette Binoche opened the 77th Cannes Film Festival with a moving tribute to Palestinian photojournalist Fatima Hassouna. Hassouna was killed in an Israeli airstrike last month. Binoche, who heads this year's Cannes jury, said Hassouna died on April 16th along with 10 relatives. Her death came a day after learning that a documentary she appears in was selected for the festival. Fatima should have been among us tonight, Binoche said. The film, Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk, by Iranian director Sapide Farsi, will premiere and feature Hassouna's voice and story from Gaza. Binoche's tribute drew tears and sparked reflection across the global film community. It follows a letter signed by more than 380 film professionals condemning the industry's silence over Israel's genocide in Gaza. A suspected hate crime is under investigation in Los Angeles after disturbing graffiti was found on a local mosque. The Islamic Center of Southern California reported vandalism on its walls and nearby trees on May 12th. The graffiti included symbols that police say may be hate-motivated. Los Angeles police have launched a hate crime investigation. The LA chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, condemned the attack, calling it an assault on diversity and tolerance. Executive Director Hussam Ailouche said the mosque is a vital part of the community, and this hateful act reflects growing anti-Muslim rhetoric across the country. KRLA welcomed the police response and urged vigilance. A press conference with police, mosque officials, and local leaders is set for Friday to address the incident and reassure the community. At Kazan Forum 2025 in Russia, Modest Fashion Day spotlighted faith-conscious style, with designers from 7 countries showcasing global trends in modest wear. This and more coming up next.
Get ready for a celebration of culture, art, and tradition like never before. The 2nd annual Turkish Festival, a cultural heritage convention, is coming to the Rosemont Convention Center in Chicago from May 23rd to the 25th.
A 19-year-old former Michigan Army National Guard member has been arrested for allegedly plotting an attack on a U.S. military base in Warren, Michigan. Ahmad Abdul Majid Muhammad Said is charged with attempting to provide material support to a terrorist group and sharing bomb-making information. According to the Justice Department, Said gave undercover agents armor-piercing ammo and taught them how to make Molotov cocktails. If convicted, he faces up to 20 years in prison on each charge. Officials say the plot was foiled thanks to swift action by law enforcement. The FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force is leading the investigation. 9 people have died in U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody since January. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons shared this information in his testimony before a House panel Wednesday. He claimed each death is investigated thoroughly by ICE's internal office and local authorities. Lyons stressed the agency's commitment to transparency, but Democrats are not convinced. Congresswoman Veronica Escobar criticized the Trump administration for urging private detention centers and allegedly targeting immigrants with legal status. She called the conditions inside the facilities tantamount to human rights abuses, citing overcrowding, lack of medical care, and poor living conditions. Escobar also pressed Lyons for details on detention costs and capacity, including how funding translates into more beds. Lyons declined to give figures, saying costs vary by region. He added that ICE prefers working with public institutions and is working with Congress to expand detention space responsibly. Nearly 1.9 million displaced Syrians have returned to their communities. A new UN report says families face major challenges, including lack of clean water, electricity, and health care. The International Organization for Migration, or IOM, assessed conditions in 1,100 return areas across Syria. It found that while returnees are resilient, many still lack basic services and legal documents needed to access aid or reclaim property. Since January 2024, more than 1.3 million internally displaced people and nearly 730,000 Syrians from abroad have gone back. This was after the fall of the regime of President Bashar al-Assad in December. But economic hardship and poor infrastructure are slowing recovery. IOM Director General Amy Pope says Syrians are resilient and innovative, but they need significant help to rebuild their lives. The agency stresses helping Syrians rebuild is key to long-term stability in the country. Oman's Grand Mufti, Sheikh Ahmed al-Khalili, has urged India to remember the legacy of its former Muslim rulers and end hostility towards its Muslim population. His statement followed a deadly 4-day escalation between India and Pakistan that ended in a ceasefire. Dozens were killed in the fighting on both sides. Congratulating Pakistan on what he called a victory over their aggressors, the Mufti also called on Islamabad to support oppressed Muslims globally, especially in Palestine. He urged India to recall how Muslim rulers governed with kindness and benevolence towards all faiths. The rare political statement from the Omani cleric drew global attention. Muscat typically maintains a neutral stance and balanced ties with India and Pakistan. Oman also shares a maritime boundary with Pakistan and has historical links to Gwadar, which it ruled until 1958. The Mufti's remarks came amid mounting international criticism of India's treatment of its religious minorities under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP government. Citing growing anti-Muslim violence and discrimination, the Mufti invoked India's Mughal-era past to call for religious harmony and justice. Experts say the global Islamic finance market is on a sharp upward curve. It is expected to surge from $2.2 trillion in 2023 to $12.5 trillion by 2033, with an annual growth rate of 18.4%. Rising interest in ethical Sharia-compliant finance is driving this boom. In 2024, the Middle East and Africa led the sector, holding 53.4% of the global market, generating $1.1 trillion in revenue. According to Global Finance magazine, nearly 95% of Islamic finance assets are concentrated in 10 countries, Saudi Arabia and Iran together accounting for over half. Malaysia leads in Islamic capital markets, while the UAE, Qatar, and Kuwait remain key players. In a breakthrough for eco-friendly parenting, a new diaper brand called Hero is using fungi to fight plastic waste. Each biodegradable diaper includes a packet of plastic-eating fungal spores. When tossed into a landfill, the fungi activate with moisture and start digesting the diaper from the inside out, breaking it down into mycelium and nutrient-rich soil. More than 18 billion diapers end up in U.S. landfills yearly, taking centuries to decompose. Hero's microdigestible diapers aim to change that with a scalable and sustainable solution. The fungi used were discovered a decade ago, but now Hero has turned the lab discovery into a real-world product. Co-founder Tero Isakopila says the response has been electric. For $35 a week, parents can subscribe to receive a week's supply of diapers, wipes, and fungi packets. In Russia's Republic of Tatarstan, the spotlight turned to modest style at the Modest Fashion Day in provincial capital Kazan. It was alongside the Kazan Forum 2025, a major summit of the Russia-Islamic World Partnership. The fashion show featured collections from 9 designers representing Russia, Indonesia, Pakistan, the UAE, Oman, Qatar, and Tajikistan. Among the names were Margot Avayan and Minzifa from Russia, Atya Khan from Pakistan, and Amal Al-Raisi from Oman. Their work highlighted the growing global trend of modest fashion. This is stylish, faith-conscious clothing designed for women who prefer conservative dress, often for religious or cultural reasons. Analysts say modest fashion not only is a cultural statement, but a booming economic opportunity for global manufacturers and designers. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bring you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.